A boy was walking his bumblebee. He tied it to a string. The sky was lit up with violet light. A bird began to sing a song of sixpence.
We're recording.
Yay! We're back.
Hi.
We're not actually. We just act like we are.
Yeah. So we're back.
After a long hiatus.
It's been a little while. It has been a very, very busy summer.
It is my fault. I'm having a great time.
It's not just her fault. I've been having a good time too. We've been doing lots of stuff.
Mainly together. Meet my other hip.
Yeah, there have been travelings and weddings and just stuff. So, sorry that we...
Also, the last book was very long.
It was very long.
Very long.
So, we are talking about the Dovekeepers. This is episode 6?
Yes.
I think 6. I am completely unprepared, so let's just say that now. That this is just going to be chaotic. So
you should be used to it by now.
Yeah. So I have no notes. So whatever.
Winging it.
We read the Dovekeepers. We were supposed to read it last month, but we both...
That means that winging it was a really good pun.
Yes! Yes, it was.
Did it.
So it took us a really long time. This was a really big, thick book. And I actually started it in paper because this is the one I stole, if you remember from a couple of episodes ago. Accidentally stole. From somebody that I barely knew.
She's horrible.
I just accidentally, they let me look at it and I accidentally walked out with it in my hand.
She's a klepto.
But then I tried to get it back to them and they're like, well, just keep it and read it. So it looked like the kind of book that Kate might like and I thought I would like it. So I picked it and we read it and it was really long.
Let us discuss the book. Dive right into the meat of this.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad because I feel like I should have liked this way more than I liked it. Like looking online, everybody just raves about this book.
It's an opus of a novel.
It was good in the sense that it was well written. It was an interesting subject matter. So this was like a historical fiction
Of the tale of Masada.
Yeah.
Which anybody who's not Jewish might not be familiar with.
Yeah, I was
Anyone
going to
who
say
is
I
Jewish
was not
is
so
very
familiar
with.
But like it was interesting. The historical part was interesting. I usually really like magical realism, but there was a lot of that in this. The characters were interesting. I don't know why.
I want to watch
I really want to like the book.
You know what? For me, the reason, and I did like the book, I will recommend the book to other people who have a lot of time on their hands that's necessary for this book. But it felt to me like reading Lord of the Rings. This happened, and this happened, and this happened.
Lord of the Rings.
I did not. I mean, I know that's like sacrilege. But to be fair, I have traumatic experiences based around that book. If anybody has ever had the BBC book on tape, you understand the trauma I went through when I had to listen to it with my boyfriend all the way down to and back from St. Louis because Smeagol would do this. And then you have... And 7 hours. And if I turned this thing off, the boyfriend would wake up. Where's Lord of the Rings? Like, oh my god. It's there, honey. Smeagol, look. Fucking Smeagol.
Yeah.
So yeah, several readings of that means that I was destined to hate that book. So for me, it was very much this and this and this and this, and you're waiting for this big drawing back of all of the plot lines, and which I would also compare it to reading Four Pillars. Have you ever read the Four Pillars of the Earth?
It's on my list to read, but I have not read it.
That struck me exactly like reading this book, more so than even Lord of the Rings, where you're watching these lives, like several generations of historical stuff unfolding for years and years, and 800 pages later, you start seeing them all weaving back together. And I thought, and what was helping me get through this one, was that this was going to be another one of those where I get to literally the last 20 pages, and I go, that's what the last 800 pages was about. I thought I was reading about these lives and what it was like in medieval England, and what I was actually reading about was the separation of church and state, and how the church's power actually enabled the state to become what it is and more helpful to people. Got it.
Yeah.
So I was waiting for that giant climax in this book, and it was a much more subtle climax. I liked it. It was not earth-shaking and time period changing.
Over my head. Did it just go over my head?
No, it did not go over your head. The parts that were coming back and becoming more, spoiler alert, interweaving, and was the fact that none of these people could have survived without all of the previous experiences that they had that we were slowly working towards. And for this book, it was very subtle. It was like...
Right. And I did like that. I did like the interweaving of their lives.
And how it all came back.
And how it all came together.
If you hadn't have gone through X, Y, and Z, no matter how horrible it was, you would now be dead.
Yeah.
It was a more grandiose interweaving and sudden realization in Four Pillars. But the beginning was no less tedious.
Yeah, and that might be, like, it was all interesting, but it was very slow moving, and even keel.
Yes.
Like, stuff happened, but it was just kind of...
I feel like even keel is a very good way to say it. These horrible, traumatic, massive events happen, but because there are so many of them over the course of so many lives, even the most emotionally gripping, traumatic, life-changing experiences are kind of weighed evenly across the board.
Right.
Pretty much it's like one trauma after the other trauma after the other trauma.
Well, and also because they were all told in retrospect, it was like a lot of traumatic things happened, but they weren't happening for the most part right now. Mm-hmm. They were happening in the memories of the characters. So it was all like backstory,
long form storytelling.
And maybe this had something to do with the audiobook too. Like it just it felt distant.
Yeah.
You know, you're describing this really horrible event, but it just didn't have like that extreme emotional resonance that you would expect. I didn't feel the connection
to the characters.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. It was in large part because it was retrospectively told. I did enjoy at first I did not. But the one thing that they've got through all of this to kind of shake things up a little bit so that you become a little more interested again was at 3 different points, they changed storytellers.
Yes.
So you're no longer being told
I did like that.
By this person. Now this other person in her life is telling you about her story and her backstory. Right. Which I thought was really helpful, but very confusing the first time they did it, because you'd been in the book for like 300 pages?
Yeah.
It was like 300 pages with one storyteller. And then they switch, and you are so used to that one storytelling, and I wasn't aware they were going to do this.
Yeah.
That it took me a while to shift gears and be like, oh, okay, I got
Yeah.
it. We're not switching back. You are now the storyteller. So by the
Right.
time they did it again, I was prepared and it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it did take me a little while to get used to, and some of the stories are much longer than others. So like by the time we got to the last story, which didn't have that much more to input because you had so much filled in for you, Shira's, hers was in a lot of ways the most important, the pinnacle, the
Right.
keystone story. Yet she only had this many pages. You know, it was like 100 pages or something dedicated to what Shira's story was. Which, like when you're drawing and you're focused on one point, if you put too much detail in there,
Mm-hmm.
you're focused on that point, that you're telling the reader
Right.
this is important. By having only this many pages, you're telling the reader this is not as important.
Right.
But in actuality, you have to work your way around that because it is the most important.
Right. Yeah. It was interesting and good. I didn't love it. I liked it. I'm glad I've read it.
I had a little bit of a different perspective on it just because, and a much more personal interest in it because I am Jewish. And this tale of Masada has been told to me throughout my life in different venues. It's just something I'm familiar with. I don't know the first time or the last time that I heard about it, but it comes up in any tales of how, you know, we own this land and then it was taken from us, and, you know, the triumph of the Jewish people. And like Holocaust stories, it's very much about this is how much religion means to these people.
Mm-hmm.
You should feel it this much because these people gave up everything for their religion. And I'm not arguing for or against that. This is how it was.
Yeah.
And so when told the tale of Masada, it was over and over when I was younger and straight through almost adulthood. It was such a romanticized version that I never even stopped to consider until somebody said it as, oh God, that's a horrible story. And I don't remember, it was my mother or my sister. I'm like, what do you mean? It's beautiful that, you know, it's so sad that all of these people, every person died in this event. And, you know, that they were willing to give their lives for something so beautiful. And I got that, are you kidding me look? I'm like, what? Like, do you honestly think those people gave up their lives willingly? Somebody had to kill them. Somebody went around killing their own people. And, like, all of a sudden, yeah, I was young. Curtains come off the eyes. Oh, my God! And that's very often looked over. It's a tale of pride rather than a tale of the horror of the times.
Right.
And reading this book, one of the reasons I was interested to pick it up was it was one of the first and most thorough tellings that I have gotten, granted I have not gone looking, of the tale of Masada without being romanticized about either the people or the religion. It is more specifically about how hard life was back then and what you had to do to survive and the brutality of life in general rather than, oh, we're so great.
Right.
Or have been done so wrong.
Yeah.
The Romans are not evil people. The Jews are not wonderful people, and it is not vice versa either.
Right.
They are all brutal, horrible people that have done horrible things to get to the spot. But because of the nature of the land they were in, it was that or die.
Yeah. What did you think of all the magic mixed in?
I actually really enjoyed that because I felt that anytime they introduced it, it was very easy to dismiss. As my personality. And I'm not even kidding you. I saw the magic and the characters who did magic as it was like voodoo. If you believe in it, it'll work for you. There were very few parts where you actually had to question the validity of it.
Right.
I mean, even the parts where it's you've based an entire life for an entire book on the fact that this is the way it is. The prophecy of love will bring you ruin. That's the most easy to predict in the entire world.
Right.
Of course it will bring you ruin. Not only that, but knowing that and actually believing it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Most of these prophecies were self-fulfilling.
Right. But I didn't really understand why it was there.
I think it was there to be a third party that didn't have a stake in the story that was being told. If the story was told by a Jew, it would be told from a Jewish perspective and therefore romanticized in this way. If it was told from a Roman, it would have been, this is why we're right.
Mm-hmm.
I think the magic allowed us to take a step back and have a third-party observer that didn't have a stake either way except for in the individual lives of the people that were partaking.
Yeah, I guess. It just didn't, like I said, I usually really like magical realism.
I didn't even know that was a category. Thank you for educating me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I can
Well,
ignore
it's
it.
where, it's where it's not like a fantasy novel, it's a realistic novel, and magic just happens to be part of the culture.
Mists of Babylon?
I have not read Mist of Babylon, but probably yes.
Okay. Mists of Babylon addresses magic as if it was real, and there's no
Right.
denying the fact that the magic is actually happening.
Yeah.
Okay. Here I could plausibly deny that anything was happening more than the laws of science.
Yeah. I can't remember the exact title, but Dr. Norrell and
And I don't know that one.
that one's more recent. I was going to look it up, but I need a good place to look it up. There we go. I can never remember the name of the whole name of the book. Maybe I'm not going to find it. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell.
I don't know that one.
That's it's good, but it's very solidly magical realism. It's basically
Okay.
I mean, it's a fantastical novel, but it's told in a very realistic way. So that's kind of magical realism. And usually I really like it. I kind of have mixed feelings about that book too, but usually I really like it. And here it just felt odd to me.
Okay. I can understand why it would have felt odd. I saw it as a piece of the time period.
Yeah, and I guess.
Because there wasn't necessarily a dichotomy. There was certainly, at the time period that they're discussing, older religions and polytheistic religions that were
Right.
wandering around and were very much a part of the landscape. And had they left that out, it would have been less realistic. If they had included it but put it on the outskirts, I don't know that it necessarily would have read properly. Like,
Right.
it would have been a detail that I'm not sure why we're reading.
Well, I felt it felt appropriate that it was included as part of the time period. It just felt odd the way it was treated, because it wasn't treated as this is what these people believed and did. It was treated as this is real.
Oh, see, I saw it as this is what people believed and did. And that's what I meant by being able to ignore it, was there's no part in there that I had to accept that it was real.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of these people wandering around thinking, I can do magic. I can read
Right.
bones. Fine, read those bones. Good for you.
Well, and maybe it was just unclear, because the thing about her, the first character in the book, her father and her brother were assassins, and she kept talking about her father having the power of invisibility, and it was treated very literally.
I had issues with that.
But are
Harry
you
Potter.
Right. Are you really being literal? Or are you saying that he was so stealthy that he seemed to be invisible? And I could never quite tell which they were doing.
I took that initially to be a stealthy and a technique that they used at the time period that
Right.
most people did not have, like our camo. Ooh, wow, you could have used camo. That's great. Towards the latter half, where it became a more real part of the story, where it was undeniable that they were hinting at that, pointing
Right.
visibility here, I took that more of a literary technique at pointing out her lineage and ties to her past that she could not undo or separate from, like genetics,
Yeah.
but not in a literal form, but more as a... At that point, it was becoming abstract. It was a matter of, the author is trying to make a point. You're going to have to look past the point that this is... The only way that she could poke you in the face and tell you she's making that point is by making this a little bit absurd.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was just kind of weird.
Just kind of weird. Genetics.
I felt like it wasn't clear enough what she was trying to do.
Okay.
It felt muddy or something for me.
I can understand that. I can definitely understand that.
But
There were a lot of
I think I'm
symbols.
wrong because all these other people on the internet say it's wonderful.
I haven't looked at any reviews for this at all. I'm here cold turkey. I would be interested to know what they thought the symbolism of the cloak, obviously the lion. I mean, there are a couple things in there that are obvious symbols.
Yeah, what is it with lions in Judaism? Because I am reading another book now, and there's this is the third book with like
Lions in it.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, what are the lions? This is obviously a thing.
I think, now I don't know about your other book, but I think in this one, the lion wasn't actually tied to Judaism, but it was more tied to the magic, because the lion is an older symbol. I'm going to have to double check myself on this one, but I believe it's a feminine symbol, feminine strength and power. The female, the lioness, is the caretaker of the group. It's a symbol of independence and female prowess,
But on all the
which
books,
is why
they're
she
always,
was so tied to it.
right. But they're always kind of representing the men.
This one, it was representing the female.
But wasn't it? It was the guy that she was in love with that she kept saying was the lion.
Yes, but it was her symbol.
Right.
Anytime she ran into the lion, it was like a power animal.
Right.
The lion is giving her the strength. I don't think it was ever about the man she was with.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
And it's just, I just sort of keep seeing it used in that way. So
I'd be
wondering
interested
if
to
it
go
was-
back through and check what other people think about that one, but I read that as more of an Egyptian, like African
Right.
symbol of feminine prowess and power.
Yeah, well,
and
and
independence.
in all the books, it's tied to the women. It's sort of tied, representing the men that they're interested in, kind of the same way.
I have to look at that.
So,
I know there is a tie from Judea to the lion as well, because there are symbols of a lion and I want to say David, but I don't remember. I'm a bad Jew. I'm a horrible Jew. I
don't know anything about it at all. The one interesting thing that I came across in looking this up today is that they're making a miniseries out of it.
Wait, what?
Yep.
Oh, they keep doing that to books we've seen.
I know. CBS is making...
Oh, will it be like one of those Lion OG Read More?
Like what?
Lionel G. Reedmore? Oh, tell me I'm saying that right. Look him up. Okay, Lionel G. Reedmore was the one that did the storybook, the cartoon Fox, when I was growing up, that had a big scarf. Reedmore. And he'd open a book, and these stories would come out of it. And my favorite one, of course, was about a lion named Pongo? Pongo and Perdita. It was a couple. And Pongo went around to try and get an act of Congress through in order to, A, teach us about Congress and
Captain
B,
O.G.
environment.
Reedmore?
Yeah, Captain O.G. Reedmore.
Okay.
Ah!
The ABC Weekend Special.
He was amazing. He was right there with Reading Rainbow for me.
I must have watched that.
Of course you did. Yeah, ABC Weekend Specials.
Yeah.
And it would go, do-do-do-do-do-do, and the book would open, and like all this magic fairy dust would come out. Oh, he was amazing. Yeah. I actually, if anybody has clips of that they would like to send me, I would love to see them. I miss him.
I don't think this is going to be for kids.
Still, ABC Weekend Special. I think we can tone this down. They and the lioness came in and was like, "What up, Jews?" They didn't die. They went to sleep. And the Romans came in and was like, now, it's past your bedtime. And all the Jews went to bed. The end. That's the story of Masada.
That's actually kind of terrifying.
It's no different from many of the other stories that they have toned down for. Some of my favorite stories have been bastardized less than that for film.
So this is going to be a CBS miniseries. Rachel Brosnahan?
No
who
idea.
that is, from House of Cards and Blacklist, is going to play Yael, who is the first one in the story. She doesn't really say Yael to me, but...
Well, she does have red hair.
Yeah, that's true.
Technically correct. I like my women to look much more badass than what they generally do on this, though.
CBS, it seems like an odd choice for CBS, but...
Oh, I thought it was ABC. You said CBS. Sorry.
Yeah, CBS.
Okay.
But interesting. It doesn't really say when it's supposed to come out, but I assume probably next year. They're gathering actors for it now.
I can see where this would make a really good miniseries. It would need to be broken off in chunks.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to read it all in one for a podcast is just a bit much, I think.
Yeah.
But reading it in chunks or watching it in chunks even better would actually probably make it a really interesting story.
Yeah, I would be interested to watch it just because I read it.
I mean, there are soap opera elements, plus it is an epic tale.
Yeah.
There's no denying it's a lifetime of stories.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it was good, but epic and slow. And
if you have a really long time, I would recommend this book. If you do not, maybe not this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
So what have you been reading lately?
Oh, lots of stuff. Since I didn't take any notes, I'm just going to look through my Goodreads list.
Isn't that what it's for?
Good things that I have read lately. The Lions of Al Rassan. That was the other one that lions...
Well, no surprise there are lions in that.
Yes. But it was kind of the same sort of usage. That was actually a really good book. That was one of the vaginal fantasy reads. And it was actually very, it was more fantasy based, but big, huge, epic. book. We read that one, and where's the other one that we read? The Mistress of the Art of Death, which was, I can't remember what the time period was, but also it's kind of fantasy, but about a female, like forensic investigator, like back when such a thing did not really exist.
That's fun. What was the name of that one again?
Mistress of the Art of Death.
Huh. Same time period as The Alienist? Jacob Carr, I believe?
Yeah, which
Okay.
I loved The Alienist.
Yeah, that was a good read.
Yes, probably around that same time period, because that was when forensics were just starting. And
not really taken as real science yet. Like that and phrenology, where they filled your head for knobs. Developing at the same time, and we're given the same weight, which is really scary.
Yeah. I would actually kind of like to reread that one, because I listened to it, and it was so kind of dense. It was good, but it was dense that I didn't.
It was one of those that, having read it as book, I'm very, very glad that I did, because you need to, and then like think about it for a while, and then start again.
That's how you read everything.
This is why it takes me days
Alienist,
to get through,
I read
like,
as a
comic book.
Alienist, I read as a book. I read that one a while ago. Mistress of the Art of Death, I listened to as an audiobook.
Okay.
And
it was good enough to...
Yeah, I would actually kind of like to read that again.
I will have to pick that one up.
As print.
Share that with me on Goodreads.
Okay.
Do that, madame.
What else have I read that was good? I read Orison, actually, which was written by a friend of Sean's, who I do the Universal Geek podcast with, and we actually did an interview with the author, Daniel Swenson, which was cool, and I really liked Orison. Very fun fantasy book, shorter, on the shorter side. Very cool, like, female protagonist. And if you like kind of sort of adventure style fantasy books, it's actually a really good book. And Delancey was probably one of the other ones that I would recommend, which is Molly Weisenberg. She's blogs. Her blog is Orangette. She's a food writer. She also wrote A Homemade Life, which I have not read, but the other girls in my food book club have read and was very good. That's why they wanted to read this. This is about the opening of her restaurant in outside of Portland, I believe, or in Seattle. Delancey is the name of the restaurant, and if you like food books, this one's is pretty good. I think I liked it more than the other girls in my group did. I think they liked her previous one better because this one's a lot more. It's about the restaurant, but it was also about her relationship with her husband and how that changed with the opening of the restaurant, because opening a restaurant is so hard. If you're a person who has aspirations to open a restaurant but doesn't really know what that means, you should read this book. Because it is.
Was this a little bit research for you, Blue?
No, I know how hard it is to open a restaurant. I don't really want to do that. My husband would like to have a bar of his own one day, but he actually knows what that means and how to run one, so that's fine.
You go do your thing.
Yeah.
I'll sit over here and draw pictures.
I would help if he told me, if he
I
needed
will
help with
bust
something,
tables.
but I would not want to open my own restaurant. So what have you been reading?
Lots of stuff that I totally forgot about because it took so long to read this book. That's what I've been checking my phone. I was like, I read something. I have picked up recently, and I've gone through maybe the first 4 or 5 stories of Neil Gaiman's Unnatural Creatures. Now, he did not write this; he curated it. So he took.
I have that. I haven't read it
Oh,
yet,
really? A portion of the proceeds from that book goes to, I forget what charity because I'm a bad human being and I cannot do internet searches fast enough. But it's a charity, so yay, buy the book because it's good.
I'm just seeing if that was one of the ones up there. No, I think it's in the other.
No, darn, because it's right in the front cover. But oh, you know what? I do know what program it is. It is the program that teaches inner city children. It gives free classes for writing, creative writing, poetry. Teaches them haikus and how fun it is. I think it's like 88. It's some number. And they have secret spy shops in Chicago, and I think there's one in St. Louis. There are like 5 of these across the country, and the shop sells like silly little gadgets as secret spy shops, and it actually says like, "Don't come in here. This is not a. This is it's called the boring shop here. Don't come in here. Nothing to see. Boring, boring, boring." And when you come in, it's fun little spy gadgets, and in the back, the entire store is specifically so that volunteers can come in and teach inner city youth how to engage in creative writing and how to improve their writing. So it's a great program, and part of the proceeds from this book goes directly to funding that. Gaiman, obviously, everybody knows, but The Unnatural Creatures are a collection of short stories that he curated, that he, over the course of his lifetime, has found inspiration from. So you'll hear stories about bees that's still a little unnatural, even though it's actually very correct according to horticulture bees. Demons, magic spots, griffins, just fun. And they're all short enough that you can actually just, put it by the side of your bed and pick through it. That's what I've been doing. I've also read The Answer to the Riddle Is Me. I do not recall the author right now, but he's a frequent presenter on NPR. Mm-hmm. This story is fascinating. It's a quick read because he makes light of it, and it has great human insight, even though it goes really, really fast. It is the story of a gentleman that went on a Fulbright grant for writing to India, and his malaria medication gave him severe and sudden amnesia. And it's...
Oh, I heard it. Yeah, I did hear about this.
It's amazing, and it's a full account, and he rips his heart open for you. It's painful. It's about discovering yourself and who you really are when all of your memories, your entire slate, wiped clean. He's never getting most of that back. It's about the relationships that he had to discover that he had, the ones that he wanted but couldn't quite make the connections with, and it's a beautiful evaluation on what self is. It's a little painful to read, but because he's got such a great sense of humor about himself and about what happened, it becomes a fun read as well.
Yeah, it sounds really good.
It could not be written by anybody else, because not only does he have a personal account on this, but there's no ghostwriter involved. The man was a writer when this happened to him, so we are blessed that he went through this crap. There's a lot of information on the drug itself. It's very scary because not only did this, everything that happened to him, it's scary that this can happen to a human being.
Yeah.
But it's also scary that we were feeding our Marines this. We were testing it on Guantanamo Bay detainees. This is and has been called the Agent Orange of our times. And it's one of those drugs that was pushed through the FDA because what could go wrong? And when they were giving it to the Marines, without telling them that there were side effects of this, severe behavioral side effects to people with guns. The Marines would call it like Freak Out Fridays or something, or maybe it was Tension Tuesdays, whatever day it was. It was, and it just became known as that, we all get really fucking violent on this day and we don't know why. I mean, obviously it's the drugs, but we all know to fucking chill that day. So if you want to read about it, it doesn't go into that in depth. It kind of touches the surface, but if you're familiar with the drug at all, or interested, you should read it. And if you're not, you should still read it because it's a good read.
Yeah, it sounds really good.
I also wrote, I am still reading Saga as it comes out. It's a comic book that is kind of amazing about, War and Peace, intergalactic. It's told from, interestingly enough, the baby's perspective. Anybody that's interested in comics, this is one of the great ones of our times that is currently being written. We skipped over, because it took us so long to read this book, over the course of the last couple of months, unfortunately it's old news now, but Maya Angelou died.
Yeah.
And so I picked up a book of her poetry and went through it and rediscovered, and it cannot be understated how easy it is to grasp and get in touch with her poetry. I can see why it's given to people who are in, grade school. I can see why you were still going to benefit from it as an adult. You should have several books in your house. That's all. And I had others, but I don't remember what they are.
Yeah, I read a bunch of other stuff in here, but most of it was just kind of
filler
and fluffy and
Tentacle
this stuff I like to read. It wasn't tentacle porn. I did read the Princess Diaries. It was cute. I downloaded it at some point, and it was like the first thing on my Kindle when I needed a new book. I was like, okay, I'll read this. It was cute.
That sounds great. It sounds... No, flip through. If that's the first thing, it means that they are giving you crap. They had extra copies. They really want to push this one. You just go right on through.
I remember downloading it at some point.
No. Can't believe you downloaded that crap.
I can. I don't know why you're surprised about this.
I'm not surprised. I'm horrified.
I downloaded it because I liked the movie.
Oh my god, you saw the movie?
Of course I saw the movie.
What is wrong with you?
I like this movie.
You are a grown-ass woman. and not dumb.
I like it. It's fun.
I'm so glad people like you exist. Without you, there would be no shiny, happy unicorns in my life. Thank you for being my shiny, happy unicorn. Meanwhile, I'll be sitting over here reading about amnesia and drugs that are being
I like those
fed
books too.
I know.
I like both.
Developing a twitch here.
Oh, and then actually, right now I am reading, and this is for vaginal fantasy. We've had some really massive books lately.
Yeah, that last one didn't sound like a vaginal fantasy book.
They were both romancy, but not heavily so.
Felicia obviously doesn't have a big hand in this.
Well, no, I don't remember who picked those. I think it was actually Bonnie Burton, which was no, it wasn't. It was maybe it was Kayla. I think she's the big historical fiction fan. But right now, the one I'm reading is it must have been. I haven't watched the official hangout. It must be like Robot Month because it's we're both the books are about robots, and the one I'm reading right now is He, She, and It, and again, Jewish stuff. And there were lions mentioned.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I said. This is like the third book I've read.
Lions, Jews, and robots? That just does not
Well,
sound like a book.
This book is actually really interesting. Another kind of slow, epic thing, and it's huge. But it is like a dystopian future, and it's environmental stuff, and I think war is it's mostly environmental stuff. So it's like a wasteland, and everybody's living under domes and things, and it's there's pretty much martial law. But I'm not hugely far into it. But the main character was living in a city, went through a divorce, and is going back home. And her home is like a Jewish enclave. So it's like this. It's called a free community on the fringe,
Ooh.
and they sort of exist with sort of a tentative peace with the corporate.
They're brown coats.
Yeah, and there's still kind of some warring going on among the free tribes and things, but it's this really interesting mix of like sci-fi and dystopian fiction, and I mean it's not history, but I feel like it's sort of drawing on the historical divisions and things of.
I like
people.
sci-fi that does that because it brings to light new insights into our past.
Right.
Yeah, best sci-fi does.
Yeah, so it's very thick reading, and they didn't have this one on audiobook, so I am slowly making my way through the print book, but it's good.
You have to read like the rest of us plebeians.
Yeah, but it's just I like reading. I'm slow and I don't have a lot of time for it.
Sweetie, you go through so many books in a month.
Yeah, but most of those are audio stuff.
Well,
when I get something like this
you
that's
would
like
have
big
to.
and epic,
It would be physically impossible for you to get through this many paper books.
Some people do.
No.
I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, but those
do.
people are hobos. Very well-educated hobos. I'm sure there's an entire beachcomber community of, like, people who just read books.
I want to be part of that community. I just want to read books and draw pictures all day long.
You know those Chinese placemats that always tell you what sign you are according to your year of birth? I hate mine. I have always hated mine because it always tells me, every one of them says, you would be an ideal beachcomber. And it took me forever. I kept asking my mom, like, what's a beachcomber? She's like, a hobo, honey.
I've never seen Beachcomber.
No, seriously. I'm something ridiculous like a goat. Goats are beachcombers. I'm like, my mom would threaten me with, like, if you're not good, your Chinese placemat is gonna come true. You're gonna be a beachcomber.
I like it's a buffalo or an ox, depending on the calendar, and I don't know what profession it told me I should do.
Yeah, if yours was insulting,
it
you'd
said
remember.
I should sit around and read books and draw pictures all day. I'm sure that's what it said. I want to be a beachcomber.
I would not be happy. I'd be fidgety all day. So that's what we read. So the opinion of this book that we read this week was, if you have time, hooray. If you don't, read something else. Or if you have this much time, and are interested in reading a long book that has a really good plot line that's like this, but not about the same subject matter at all, 4 Pillars is actually a little
Yeah, it's on my list because I've heard so much good about it.
Same story type, better outcome. And not, obviously everybody's pretty much dead and brutally murdered in this one, so I'm not saying like better outcome as in like, it won't leave you horribly depressed. I just mean like, the culmination is a little more grand for your effort.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention He, She, and It is by Marge Piercy. Just in case anyone's interested. So far, interesting book.
Wonderful.
All right.
Thank you for joining us for yet another episode of Pages Podcast.
Oh, wait.
Oh!
You have to pick a book.
Book. I'm sorry, that was my thinking. I think this time we are going to read, I just have to come up with the author for this. I had threatened this last time, and got sidetracked by another book. And so we just read something heavy, and we're about to do it again. But this one I already know is super fantastic. This is the Teapot Dome Scandal.
That's right. Okay, yeah.
And I'm just coming up with stuff on the Teapot Dome Scandal. Blue will be looking for the author while I'm telling you about the book. The Teapot Dome Scandal is about The Teapot Dome Scandal. It is a true account of, I want to say 1920s era, I'm not thinking very clearly right now, but Taft administration and the Harding administration, and how the Teapot Dome area, which is our oil reserves, were sold off to big corporations through a massive scandal, and we are still feeling the repercussions from this to this day. Also, it reads like a soap opera. It's all true, but we've got hookers and deaths and scandals and families and bribery, and it's U.S. history.
Jim Hargrove.
Jim
It's
Hargrove.
the story of the Teapot Dome scandal. It wasn't coming up because I was using teapot as 2 words. Goodreads! You should be smarter than that.
I will warn you, everything you need to know about this book is really in the first half. After that, it's a lot of plowing because it is U.S. history. See you next time.